Good morning out there, traders. It is February 19th, 2024. Welcome to the Apteros Daily Market Insight for today. It is a banking holiday here in the US, so the market is going to essentially be trading less hours, usually less volume, less participation on days like this. And it's not a day that I advise trading, usually because there's very little follow through. So it's a day where we are going to not necessarily build out our scenarios as we traditionally do, but I am going to try to get that extra mental rep in on prepping and context building and staying in touch with the market and making sure that we build good process, good routines, and that is a day in day out type of fight, right? So if you ever have a situation like this where it's like, it's a banking holiday, maybe I'll take a day off. There's nothing wrong with sitting down for an hour or so in the morning and going through your normal prep routine and just getting another rep in on that, just building out that good habit of continually doing it and staying in touch with the market. And that's what we're going to do here today. So we'll go through our recap of Friday and then we'll update our session levels for today and just get a look at the overall context of what's happening in the ES for us so we can stay in touch with it for tomorrow. So taking a look at Friday, we didn't have any real clarity, didn't have a line in the sand that we were really focused on as the idea for the session. It's one of those situations where narrative is not about finding trades. It's not about going and building out a trade and looking for, something to do during a trading session. It's about understanding the overall context of a market and what that market is trying to accomplish from, a natural framework perspective. Where's it trying to go? And what's the overall risk reward landscape? And on Friday, we essentially had these dissonant narratives up against one another. So time frames are kind of conflicting with one another. Whenever that happens, what we do often see is exactly what we see on Friday here, a wide rotational day. It's not always a wide rotational day, but usually we end up seeing a lot of back and forth type of trading on days where there's very little clarity in the ES. And the reality is often whenever this happens, just the way the framework works is it kind of happens in waves, right? You'll have maybe months, possibly even, a year or two of just solid narrative, regular, obvious line in the sand type of trading. And then you settle into like a cycle where maybe it's a day, 2 days, 3 days where the market is just kind of, let's just say, pausing until its next move. And whenever it's pausing like this, we start building, a more clear contextual picture. But in the process of that pause, usually there's dissonance back and forth between multiple time frames. And whenever you start to see that dissonance appear in your narrative building, maybe you're getting into that cycle of a little bit of a pause before the next move occurs. And that's kind of what we saw on Friday. So this rotational day makes a lot of sense here, just from how it behaved overall. Now, do references still work? Yeah, of course they do. References still work. They still hold. They still create, support and resistance and so forth. It's just there's no, let's just say, systematic way to assess the risk reward landscape whenever you have so many different dissonant things happening up against one another. And it's best to just pause along with the market and wait and see whenever clarity really emerges. So Friday, nothing really special to go over in terms of a recap for trading opportunities, but we can assess just in general, are our references working? Which ones are working? Where are we kind of pausing right now? We're kind of pausing right here down at this value area here. And, these particular, let's just say, list type of neutral reference area here was essentially whipped around a lot. And we'll have to see if anything changed whenever we update our session plan and levels today and get another prep in. So let's do that. Let's prep for today and see if anything kind of emerged out from Friday, and let's assess it. Okay, so taking a look at the overall landscape today, very interesting across the board in the ES. There's not still in a dissonant area. We still have some lower time frames that are bearish in nature. We still have a higher time frame that's bullish in nature, and they're essentially fighting back and forth with one another. And they are creating a spot, a pause in the market, and we are essentially starting to see value being built in this particular zone. And that's the overall landscape, what we're actually looking at right now. So the general expectations around this neutral area here is that we traverse back up into the bearish area. And of course, the bearish area is the limit that we need to hold for the market to rotate back down and stay within the value. So right now we're seeing this kind of rotational market in this zone, and leaving it behind would mean upside. Leaving it behind would mean more downside. And then, of course, we run into different time frame line in the sand ideas on the risk reward landscape. So the market is still in this dissonant zone, and we're seeing value being built right here, right now, in between like the 42s and essentially the 19s. So that pause in the market that I was talking about earlier with our recap, we're starting to see that develop now, on multiple time frames, and we're kind of seeing it on our lowest time frame as well. So the overall landscape in terms of DMI today, for me, these two areas, like I said, are dissonant. They are conflicting back and forth with one another. But this zone here would kind of be the main precedent for the session. I would be looking at this zone for opportunities to the downside, opportunities to the upside, and then just kind of staying in between it, for the actual session. So that's kind of where I see things right now, because the recency is really more or less towards this value building that we're doing currently. So that's the overall context of the landscape of the ES. No real scenarios today. Like I said, it is a banking holiday, so we're not going to, commit any type of risk reward landscape and all that kind of stuff for us. Just really staying in touch, getting another mental rep in with our prep, and focusing on what could possibly develop or emerge out of this market come tomorrow morning, and looking at that context again. So hopefully everybody out there has a good holiday, and trade well. If you do trade at all today, make sure you keep process at the forefront of what you're doing, and remember, it is a holiday, so shortened hours, and just make sure that you're not holding a position if you don't want to. All right, later everyone.